Boa noite. Boa noite,
Boa noite.
boa noite a todos. Boa noite, Pedro. Boa noite, Texas Slim. E hoje vamos fazer a live em inglês e vamos já passar para inglês, mas temos connosco o Pedro. Boa noite, Pedro. O objeto, como sempre. E temos como convidado o Texas Slim do Beef Initiative. So, how are we today? It's late
I'm doing
here.
fine.
Hey,
How
I'm
about you
doing
guys?
good, man. I'm in Texas and it was like 8 degrees here. I don't know what that is in Celsius, but that's cold. So, and I'm not here in the workshop, so it's been cold today. So,
Yeah, it's also cold here.
is it?
Yeah. So I'm
But
inside.
I'm glad to be here, man. I'm glad to be talking with somebody that's overseas and it's in Portugal especially. So, I was looking forward to this trip.
Yeah. Do you know Portugal? Have you ever had any contact?
I've not, but I have probably most of my friends that have traveled a lot around the world. One of the places they always talk about is Portugal. It's one of the places I haven't gotten to go, but we've had a lot of people that basically that in my lifetime is, it's kind of a hidden treasure. And so I've always wanted to get there. And in the beginning, somebody did reach out and says, "Hey, can we have this in Portugal?" And I was like, "Hell yes, let's get going." So, there's been some interest of mine, of course, to get to Portugal, especially probably this year. And so, I'm always keeping my ears, peeled back to, entertain any interest about Portugal in general, because there's a lot of history there too. So,
Do give us an heads up if you do come. We'll hang out, have some beers.
What we'll do is we'll have
steak.
we'll have a big old summit like we're going to do in Australia. I'm heading out on Saturday to go to Australia. We're going to be touring around Australia for a month. I mean, this thing just keeps getting bigger and bigger. It's every couple of days we've got stuff going on, from Bitcoin meetups to actually ranch tours to like small events to like big summits. And so I've seen this is how it kind of plays out.
So we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. So
sure,
we usually
rein me in then.
Yeah, we usually like to start with this. So how did you find out about Bitcoin, and how did you enter Bitcoin, and how did you get here?
I kind of have a lot of the same stories as a lot of people. I knew about Bitcoin back in 2013. I didn't give a crap. I was in the fiat mindset. I was still in basically big tech. I was a consultant and everything back in those days, and I had another chance to get introduced into it in 2017, but I had some like personal life things going on, so I didn't have the focus. But actually, I had an internal injury about 3 years ago, and I dabbled a little bit within, going down to the rabbit hole. But whenever I got sick, I started looking at food, and I come from agriculture and ranching in Texas. And then I come from big tech, and how I started in big tech was I got into networking. I became an analyst, and a researcher towards the end of my professional career in big tech. So whenever I was sick, I said, "Hey, I'm going to look at food and I'm going to look at Bitcoin at the same time." And so I started creating this rabbit hole of food and Bitcoin, and it was like coalescing and symbiotic. And it just really kind of took me down to the core of a lot of things that I've been trying to figure out. And it was fascinating how it kind of transpired. And so I went deep down into food, and I went deep down into Bitcoin. And then I said, well, shit, I'm going to start living like my grandfather taught me, because that's all he was doing when he was living on the Bitcoin standard. And I'm going to bring this crap back so everybody can kind of see, this is possible within food, and how, we want adoption of Bitcoin, and we want people to be educated in Bitcoin. And I've found going through the best food on the planet is the best way to basically create the conversations and create the relationships. And so I grew up with a freezer full of beef, and we always had cow. I grew up in Texas. I grew up in cattle country. And so I said, man, I'm going to use Bitcoin. We're going to start filling freezers up, and they're going to be Bitcoin freezers, and we're going to trade for beef and Bitcoin. And, That's been over a year ago. And I think we've already sold over $500,000 worth of beef through the Beef Initiative and the relationships that I've been establishing with the ranchers that are trying to, have a voice. This is just happening naturally. Everybody's finding it at that same time, from the rancher to the Bitcoin. The conversations are fantastic.
Yeah. So this, if do you want to maybe have a simple explainer of what the Beef Initiative is?
Sure. When I looked at Beef Initiative here in the United States, basically, most of our animal protein now is controlled by multinational corporations. Over 80% of our food is controlled by multinational corporations, and us as Bitcoiners have an issue with that. Most of us do. And well, that's always, and it's also in the last, 5 decades, it started destroying the American rancher as we knew him and her. And so what I've done is established a type of basically platform and gateway and bridge to where these producers can start having a voice, and they can start being found with these people that basically want to transact peer to peer. They want truth in food. They want, they want authenticity. They want transparency with their food. And so we've built a bridge to give the American rancher and basically everybody across the world at this point in time a voice to say, hey, we want to build our communities through our food like our grandparents did. And by bringing Bitcoin into that basically set of tools that we're using, then it's a no-brainer. It's decentralized in the way that we're doing it. It's community based. We're building out locally. We're broadcasting globally. There are no borders. We're not scaling anything. We're replicating. So everything that we touch, as far as I call it, our protocol within the Beef Initiative, it's what people are looking for, from the rancher side of things to the consumer side of things.
Great.
Yeah, that's
Go
great,
ahead,
man.
Ochit, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just throw in a question about with the things you've done lately. How has it been going? Like, what are the things you've achieved already as the
Sure.
with the Beef Initiative program?
Yeah, well, with our platform, I mean, we've got a lot of good technology. My co-founder with me, JP Valdez, he's basically a software engineer. He came out of retirement during COVID, so our platform is pretty robust. We're about to come out with a lot of new improvements. We're going to get into some geocentric stuff, some algorithm stuff. We're going to give a lot of analysis and to the ranchers themselves. But this year, what we did is we had 5 micro summits basically across the United States. And these were events to where we had several of them on the farms and ranches themselves. And we basically were able to do educational type of events. And so I did 5, like I said. We're about to go off to Australia. And in Australia, we're going to be doing farm ranch tours as well. We're going to be doing Bitcoin meetups. And so I see a lot of the Bitcoin meetups, and what we've done as far as the micro summits is what we call them. They're very effective, and they're kind of like a call to action. And so a lot of education happens, a lot of onboarding with Bitcoin happens, a lot of onboarding with beef happens. And so we've had a lot of great successes. So what we're going to do within the Beef Initiative this year, coming up in about a week or so, 10 days, you'll be able to go to the Beef Initiative platform. And if you want to have one of these micro summits, you'll be able, anywhere in the world, you can apply to have one. And we'll go through the process with you. And if you basically qualify, then we're going to start having these micro summits. We're building nodes across the globe, and we're doing it on a Bitcoin standard with beef and clean food. And so once we open up these micro summits, any country, any region, any state in the United States will be able to have one of these, and we'll have event coordination going on. So we really want to just pop these off and let everybody start really supporting their local producer ranchers, have these basically educational events that really start onboarding and educating people about Bitcoin. When we have these events, we transact in Bitcoin, we download wallets, we go through the education process. And so there is, it's a call to action. And so we're going to let everybody, like I said, I mean, the Australians took this. The Australian Beef Initiative is an entity in the country of Australia. They've done all the legal work. And so that's what we want everybody else to start following their lead, to where we can start building out these communities based on clean food, truth in food. So there's a lot about to transpire here within the Beef Initiative itself, just not nationally, because we're selling lots of beef through the Beef Initiative now. We have over 130 ranchers in the Beef Initiative platform that came in voluntarily. So everybody that's coming in the Beef Initiative, people are finding them. People are getting onboarded, like I said, with beef and Bitcoin. So I think this is going to get pretty viral, and we're going to try to make it global.
Yeah.
And I would love for Portugal to get involved with this.
We're doing our best. Sometimes I hear you talking about the way to orange peel the producers. How do you see the reception, and how do you think the reception has been from the producer side to the Bitcoin concept?
Well, on the producer side, and I had to learn this myself, you don't walk up to somebody and start selling them something, especially a rancher producer. It's not something to do. That's all they do is have people up there trying to, take money from them, right? And so what I found the best thing to do is, man, find somebody in your local area, just go up there and shake their damn hand and start having a relationship building session with them. Ask them why they're doing what they're doing, get to know them, establish some respect and trust. And if you like their product, buy their product. Do it once or twice, do it 3 times. And then once you do that a couple of times, you can start seeing and talking about the transactions themselves. And once you're basically have that established relationship that is done with respect, then Bitcoin comes into the picture. And talking about Bitcoin is a hell of a lot easier after you've got that relationship built, because you want to know these people. It's not about going into a coffee shop and saying, hey, take Bitcoin, and then you leave and go to the next coffee shop. This is about establishing these relationships that are going to help build community. And the best people to do that are the people that produce the food. So if you show them respect up front, the onboarding comes very natural after that relationship has transpired a little bit.
Okay. So you told us about the thing that has been happening to the meat producers around the world and the industry as a whole. How can the Beef Initiative, as it springs around the world as well, change and reverse the whole thing that happened in the past 3 decades?
Yeah, kind of what's going on right now, and it's hard for people to understand on a macro level, is we have I call it a global industrial food shift. They're basically injecting new, basically commodities and fake commodities at that into our food systems. And this isn't in the United States. Of course, it's globally. We've seen that. We see all the news that, gets parroted out every day as far as bugs and all this. And so really what people need to understand is the way that is happening is because of consumer demand, is because our consumer choices are the ones that are dictating this. And that's where we have to take ownership as far as individuals. Once you have basically established like something with the Beef Initiative locally, people change their consumer demand, and you don't have to worry about what the multinational food corporations are doing. And this is what people find out. It's like, okay, they're going to go ahead and do what they're going to do. They've invested billions upon hundreds of billions of dollars to bring this new food industrial shift. As far as, within meat, the war on meat, the climate change, all that kind of crap that they're saying is going on with cows. All of this is an orchestration so you will consume what they say you should consume. Well, if your demand does not allow that, then they're going to shift gears. And if you are building out a Beef Initiative protocol within your communities, they're going to pay attention. They already do. And so it's one community at a time. And basically, you got to get people to quit eating crappy food. I mean, that's the problem. I tell everybody, if you think there's deceptions in the food industry, then quit validating the deceptions with your consumer demand. And that takes the individual saying, I'm not going to play this game anymore. And that's what we have to come up with. And it's not going to be black and white. It's not overnight. But like, I very rarely shop at the supermarket. I very rarely shop at restaurants unless I know exactly where that food's coming from, and that's what everybody else has got to start doing as well. That's how this is how change happens. And everybody tries to get in this analysis paralysis about how we change things overnight. It took us a long time to get here, so we have to have patience and we have to have intentionality within our consumption models. And once that happens, people's lifestyles change. And I've seen it. I've been seeing it for the last 2 years. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that the market will follow demand, and mentioning the whole bug kind of operation underway at a somewhat global scale, but more visibly in the West. It seems to me that uh, that demand can also be fomented through repetition and education, and the same message that's constantly thrown at us, not so much with the bugs here in Portugal yet, but I definitely start seeing the plant-based ads throughout all media anytime I visit YouTube or anything. And on if I even go step outside of Lisbon and I go into the more remote parts of Portugal, the ads for Burger King and their new plant-based burger are rampant. And that ubiquitous communication is what we need to kind of counter. We need to offer unfortunately it's almost the alternative, but actually it should be the standard. We need to offer the message of the standard meat-based diet, and also expose that there are people that are interested in producing these things that are not going to change necessarily. This is not a unanimous decision that we as a market are shifting towards this new nutrient sources, and obviously if the producers are not selling, they cannot operate, and if they cannot operate, they won't be producing.
100%. And that's what, if people would really look at I always call it a consumption model. And you brought up Burger King, and the advertisements that we see across the board as far as social.
Whoops.
In children's schools, it's in children's schools, it's everywhere. And so what we have to do is remember that this isn't a numbers game. There's going to be people that really never change the way they eat, and they're going to be fine with having cricket dust put into their basically processed food. They'll eat it because it tastes good. They do it anyways. And so what we have to do is look at the percentages of change that you need in the beginning, and it's usually a small percentage of change. And if you basically just circumvent around this type of industrial food shift, what you're doing is you're innovating through it. And then once everybody starts seeing that you cannot sustain a vegetable, especially a industrial type of vegetable type plant-based diet, it's just not something that works, then people will understand, and it won't last. I mean, Beyond Meat right now here in the United States, it's all that plant-based meat. Man, they're going to be bankrupt. And the thing about it is they were always a distraction, though. What people have to pay attention is what I just said is like they will inject a fake commodity as far as it fake plant protein or bug protein into your basically consumption model, and nobody will pay attention to that, just like they did with all the seed oils, how they do with all the different types of sugars. And that's what they're to do, that is to have that type of success to where they can actually inject these type of food sources into our food systems, and nobody really cares about it anymore. But there's going to be a lot of basically the population, like you said, is that we're not going to have that. We don't have to. It's not healthy. We don't have to feed our children this way. And, I'm really not concerned about it as far as having success with making this basically go global, because the feedback already, and it hasn't even started, has been, insurmountable. So I think once we get momentum, that this is going to be something very interesting to watch the next 36 months for sure.
Nice.
The thing I see about that is especially in Europe, which is well, let's not talk about Europe, but they are pushing like the thing with the Dutch farmers. So they are cutting back on there. So basically they are cutting back on the and the Dutch are the biggest exporter of beef
Produce.
in the EU in Europe. So they are cutting back. I think 30% or 40% around that.
Around
So we are
30%, yes.
essentially we are going to have a shortage. And I do believe having a close connection and a close with a producer, with a farmer, with a local farmer, it's
Yeah.
essential
Well,
because
it
basically we will
is.
have a shortage.
We will have a shortage. And what I like to tell people, and just so that people can understand, they will turn beef into caviar. They will turn animal protein into caviar. They will price it out of a lot of people's basically pay grade, right? Once they do that, that's when they sweep in with all these other fake commodities that they're injecting into the food systems. And those will be the people that don't, they're just going to go along with it. They always have the last 50 years. And so if you're somebody like I said before, if you're innovating right now, if you're establishing those relationships right now, you're innovating through this prohibition against, good food. And there's always going to be a place for that. But I do believe that there'll be such a demand that there will be basically people left out, because these producers, they're basically quelling 30% across the board. This is happening in the United States too. It's a form of asset reallocation. It's the monetary reset that all of us Bitcoiners know about. That land in the Netherlands is gone, and they're going to turn a lot of food into basically done and designed in the labs. They're going to have these warehouses that basically just grow this basically genetically modified bioengineered food. Now it's not even GMO anymore, it's bioengineered. And so what we have to do as Bitcoiners, and that's why I knew we had to start it in the Bitcoin space, is that we have to innovate through this. And this is what we've done within the Beef Initiative. And we've built out nodes and communities. I mean, from the soil to your fork, we're in control of it within the Beef Initiative. And that's what I'm asking all these communities to do across the globe. That's what the Australians are doing. This is what we need to do in Portugal, Europe, everywhere. And if we do it now, if this is a 10-year plan, they have a 10-year plan, we have a 10-year plan, and we're matching them tit for tat. And I keep on telling the Bitcoiners, man, if you have ears to hear and eyes to see, man, this is the best opportunity that we can do right now for Bitcoin, because this is happening. This global industrial food shift is moving forward. And we have to build. We can't get in a circle jerk of like, hey, when number go up, we need to go out there and really put our money where our mouth was with proof of work. And I think we're at the cusp of people starting to realize that. So that's what's cool about this.
And if I may just add to that, what you mentioned about the Dutch farmers is that it also sends a very chilling message to not only clearly gonna affect negatively the future production, but even potential future production, because it sends a message to potential farmers that are going to into production that they're going to be faced with a gigantic amount of regulation. And it also, I feel like it makes them feel like they're alone in the market. So I think initiatives like the Beef Initiative, you get faces in front of faces, allowing them to kind of shake their hands and touch each other and see that there actually is a demand and not everybody is against meat, which I think is super important to keep the morale high and keep people producing. And also, as Bitcoiners, we want to keep those producers active and solvent, so they can. So we need to give them our time and our money and our value, so they can keep their spirits up, but also keep their production up.
It's a good point, Pedro, because I've met some people across, I drove 60,000 miles last year, and that's all I was doing was meeting producers. A lot of producers don't even think that people do like them. They don't realize that there is consumers out there looking for them. That's been the disconnect. The rancher never had that voice and never was able to see who their customer really is. Now they're starting to see, now that the Beef Initiative is here, that there is this bridge of consumer and producer.
Yeah.
And once that catches on, I mean, that's where it gets viral. And that's how we're positioned right now, the Beef Initiative. I knew that's what 2022 was basically for me, was reconnaissance. I had to go out there and see what on the ground, how these people were basically, how they thought people thought of them, the perception, the perspectives. And now that we know, it's like, man, this is easy. We're just going to create market access, create visibility, create conversations, create these relationships. Once that happens, man, it just flows like water. It's not hard at all.
Yeah.
Like I said, people's lifestyles change when they do this. And that's what I want Bitcoiners to realize, man. Once you start with the source of the seed of the best food on the planet, everything else in your life is going to get better. It just does, especially if you got the best money, hard money the world's ever seen. It's a no-brainer, man. Best food in the world, best money in the world, create the best communications. We're off and running, man.
Yeah. You talked about the lifestyle and how it changed in the last years. Particularly, you talk about the introduction of seed oils in the food industry and all that soy agenda. Do you think I think we already know your answer, but we want to hear it here in the podcast. Do you think there's a correlation between the introduction of seed oils in the food industry and the current state of the global health?
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's one thing I found out in the very beginning when I started going into food. I created that hashtag food intelligence. And one of the first things I did is let's look back, because I started reflecting on my family's farm. We had a lot of land. My grandfather did, what we had to go through during the 70s and 80s. And if you look, whenever we started introducing all these fake commodities, as far as seed oils, soy, high fructose corn syrup, everything, that was after, of course, that we debased the dollar in 71 and went off the gold standard. So what the F happened in 1971? Well, guess what? We debased the dollar, we debased our food. At the same time, we debased our health. If you look at these charts, all the status guys out there, go out there and look at the charts of the health of the United States and the health of our dollar and the health of basically our food and the lack of nutrition in our food, and how basically highly processed food, all these fake commodities, the debasement of the dollar, they're all correlated. And so right now in the United States, these are hard and fast statistics. 88% of Americans are now metabolically compromised or bankrupt. This has happened only in 50 years. This is a new phenomenon. The United States of America has basically lost the war on basically battling health. There's going to be generations that are lost forever. There's some things out there right now with diabetes, heart disease, basically, obesity, hitting our kids. In the United States right now, there's kids basically coming into doctors with fatty liver diseases. That's caused because of sugars and high fructose corn syrup. They just raised the BMI chart, which is the study of basically, weight and scale in the United States. Well, they just doubled it because over half of the kids in the United States are now going towards obesity, and basically 1 out of 2 is now going towards diabetes. Of course, the debasement of our dollar debased our food, it debased our health. And people are going to have to look in the mirror and look at it, and accept that what we're eating right now is not what our grandparents ate. And we're not even eating the same food that we ate 10 years ago. If you're still shopping at the supermarket, they've had so many changes to our food sources and our food interjections as far as what they're putting into our foods that the general public has no clue about. And it takes a deep dive down into food intelligence. And so if anybody wants to really reclaim their health, they're going to have to basically look at food in a different way. They're going to have to.
Yeah. Also, sure. Go for it.
No, one thing that I actually struggle a lot with is trying to figure out if it was intentional or not. But at some point, it's also kind of irrelevant, because the incentive circle is so tightly connected. Because the more disease you create, the more consumer for chemical products you create, and those chemical products are usually answering big health crises that happen at the political level, that then create political will to print more money and allocate more money and more tax dollars and more effort into solving the problems, they're gonna be just not even patching them up, because in my understanding is actually exacerbating the problem. So it just spins until death. It's just like, and then
And I mean, that's a good point, because and it's hard for a society to admit that. To admit that, hey, man, I've been eating shit for the last 50 years. This is why I'm here. And that's the hard. People really are going to have to, like I say, acceptance is the key. It really doesn't matter at this time if it was nefarious or not. What it is, it's who controls the damn money. That's what all this is. It's a financial thing. You know, after when we started monocropping, going big with our crops, and you know, really creating all this basically highly processed foods in the 70s and then on, you know, what we did is we subsidized food and made it so damn cheap and highly profitable, in a way that the big multinational food corporations, they're in this to win it. And if you have to basically extend your profit margins every year, every 10, 20, 30% just to stay in business on a multinational layer, you're going to basically make that food as debased as you can, especially, you know, especially as much as they can make things taste good. I mean, that's a lot of it right there. The chemicals that they're able to basically engineer to make us think that food is food, and when it's not. And so we're up against a lot. I mean, if it's nefarious, okay, it's nefarious. Is it not? It's just where we are. Well, I'm not going to participate anymore because I don't want to be involved in it. And that comes down to the individual. And, you know, maybe there will be a day, but it's not going to change overnight. It took us a long time to get here, but it does start with us just being able to accept that it is kind of screwed up, and that we need to quit over analyzing if it is nefarious and just move on. And that's what I chose to do in the beginning. It's like, man, I could get pissed off. I could go after it. I could make a living being an influencer on social media, just saying all the deceptions every day. That's all I do. But no, we got to have solutions. And that's what the Beef Initiative is a solution.
Yeah. In this process phase we're in, how high would you put the risk of...
It looks like you're muted, Alberto.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. In this transition phase that we're in, how high would you put the risk of meat production?
I'm not hearing anybody. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you. I can hear everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear everybody. So you don't hear anything? Nothing? Still nothing? Oh, wow.
Conseguem ouvir?
Yeah, sim.
Eu consigo.
I still can't hear you guys.
You can hear? Oh, great.
Eu ia perguntar sobre o risco de... Texas. Make some... What?
Yeah, technical problems.
Vou mandar-lhe uma mensagem a dizer para ele ligar e desligar.
Eu vi. Still nothing?
Será que é do lado dele? Texas. Pode ser do lado dele.
What about now? Can you hear us now?
Não, é do lado dele. É do lado dele. Os fones. O micro dele está a funcionar, mas os fones não.
Yeah. Agora só escrevendo uma mensagem e depois pondo.
Meu Deus.
Reconnect.
Epá, se isto não é conspiração, eu já não sei o que é isto. Meu Deus. A malta do chat consegue ouvir? Bam, consegues ouvir?
Acho que sim. Não, ele saiu, pode ser que agora consiga. Mas ele estava que parecia-me estar com a internet um bocado baixo.
Bam, consegues ouvir no chat?
Sim, pronto, alguém. Toda a gente ouve. Texas. Can you hear us now?
Texas. Sério.
Ah, pá, fogo.
Não acredito.
Porcaria do Restream.
Será que eu
também.
Yeah.
A sério.
Bem, pá, acho que está a correr bem. Esperar que ele venha.
Muito curioso que eu tenho que perguntar qual é o risco de
Texas. Can you hear
There
us
we
now?
go. Yeah, I
Oh.
can hear you now. There you go.
Sorry about this.
No,
I was
it's
just
all
about
right. It
to.
happens.
Let's go into it again. I was just about to ask you about the risk. We've seen some examples in the United Kingdom and already in the Netherlands, where some meat producers have been prohibited from producing
Yeah.
their meat. And in the United Kingdom, we saw the example of some people being prohibited from raising chicken in the in the backyard. I don't know if you see that, if you've seen that. But how high would you put the risk of the meat producers being illegalized?
Well, I think that is an ongoing battle that's always been there. I think here in the United States, and I do.
Texas.
Now we can't hear you.
Yeah, no, nothing. We can hear. Damn.
Sério. Isto é conspiração. Só que tenho a dizer.
So we are talking about.
A Greta está a ouvir.
Yes, McDonald's is screwing with us.
Isto é a Greta. E o lagarto.
Bem, Pedro, estavam-te a fazer uma pergunta. Já agora, enquanto estamos à espera do Texas. I'm very interested in SatSigner. Can you please explain me the project better? Do you accept donations for it?
Now?
We'll talk later
No,
about that.
yeah, everything's okay now.
Okay.
Sorry. So
no, that happens. Technology, man.
Probably Burger King or McDonald's are
Probably so. It happens all the time, right?
They're screwing with us.
No, but I heard the question, and basically, the thing right now, everybody's paying attention to what's going on, the WEF, the all this is always going on, though. We're always having producers shut down. This is a slow burn. You have it in the United States all the time. I mean, they basically cull herds, they cull, chicken and, raw milk. I mean, you can't, they're always going attacking producers, ranchers. This is nothing new, but what is new is their agenda. And so you have to pay attention to what is their why. Why are they doing this? Well, it's because they're basically, they want to eliminate, they want to get food to where it's not grown on soil anymore is what they want to do. They want to grow it in the labs. And so they are going to shut people down. They are going to create a lot of fear porn. That people pay attention to. A lot of people are going to get very scared, and they don't really react very well. It's part of the marketing.
Wow. Texas, you're off again. You're muted again. I don't know if you can hear us, but you're muted. You can hear us, but we cannot hear you.
Can you hear us? God damn it. No, we can hear you. We can't hear you.
Eu consigo só ouvir.
Eu também estou a ouvir tudo.
Estamos todos a ouvir, é só ele fica. Não sei se a internet deles, a internet se calhar está fraquinha. Eu vou parar de pôr coisas de chat e não sei o que aqui no coisa que parece-me que afeta.
Eu desliguei a minha câmera para poupar.
Experimenta que a tua também tinha, não sei.
Não, No sound.
No sound.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Yeah. So, but there's no sound. God damn.
No mic. DC, no mic.
Your mic is out.
No mic.
I wonder if it's the Bluetooth that keeps trying to reconnect and overstepping on the other inputs. There's the setting tabs. On the settings tab, can you see what your input for sound is?
Some plug in the chat is saying that not enough miners plugged in Texas.
Olha, eu fui outra vez a carregar, feito burro.
Come on.
This might be a. Are you on a phone or a computer? Laptop?
He's on the phone, I think. By the looks of it. Not like this. I wanna swear sort.
É pena porque a conversa estava a fluir bem.
Sim.
Eu tenho perguntas para lhe fazer. Não falta são perguntas.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hear me now?
Yes.
There we go. You were right. It was overriding. So I had Bluetooth overriding. So.
What mic do you have chosen?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but it's not super clear. It seems like there's a lot of interference and the mic is not very close.
Is that better?
A little better. Maybe we can
No.
switch off our cameras just in case it's also a bandwidth problem. I'm not sure it is, but
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Yeah. I'll switch mine off. Also.
Can you
I
hear
can
us,
hear you
Texas? Yeah. Okay. So let's turn it on again.
Is that any better?
Yeah, more so.
we can hear you, but it's very muffled. Can I make just one last suggestion? Is there a way to switch off the Bluetooth device and just connect with the wired, and maybe you can put the Bluetooth kind of far so it doesn't reconnect, because I know that the smartphones, being that smart, they always try to do things for us. It's the smart living city in your pocket. Tá, mas é que é porque estes dispositivos mal se encontram, tentam-se logo ligar, o que é conveniente.
Sim. Papai, já me aconteceu de estar a querer atender uma chamada e estar o Bluetooth do carro a puxar uma chamada. E eu estou, mas ninguém me está a ouvir.
Ou quando estás a ver pornografia em sítios públicos ligado ainda à coluna.
É isso que me aconteceu.
Ainda é cedo.
Já agora, a pergunta que eu estava a fazer ao Texas.
Eu pensei que era pelo teu silêncio ias dizer que já agora a mim já me aconteceu. Diz.
A pergunta que eu ia fazer ao Texas, vocês respondem o quão alto é que vocês atribuem o risco da produção de carne ser ilegalizada por toda a Europa e até mesmo em Portugal. Epá, estamos a ver agora o que aconteceu na Holanda. Epá, no Reino Unido, a malta foi
mercado
proibida.
paralelo, não é? O problema é que não dá para criar uma vaca assim no mercado negro, não é?
Sim, e não consegues ter criação de vacas assim em larga escala, totalmente no mercado negro.
Eu acho que, como qualquer outra estupidez política que tenha sido feito, ainda não chegamos ao pico. Há de chegar ao pico e depois as pessoas vão passar fome, e depois vai alterar e se calhar vai melhorar um bocadinho, mas até lá ainda vai
Tens o que aconteceu no
preciso.
Sri Lanka.
Sim, acho que também era o que estávamos a falar há bocado. Hey Slim, can you hear us now?
Hey, I can hear
No.
you. You
Oh,
hear me?
Now it's
Perfect.
loud and
perfect.
clear.
Perfect.
We're just talking about what the Jet was asking about the risk of meat outlaw or meat production outlaw, and I was just opining that, like any other political crazy measure, it will peak at some point, but then people will get to a certain level of frustration and outrage that at some point there's an inflection point. But I think that for that to
I
happen,
agree.
we need the message and the narrative to exist, so at least people have something to attach and be hopeful for, because that's the message. Like the climate change message is prevalent everywhere. You cannot, it's like it's crazy how you cannot escape it. It's everywhere. You buy you go to the groceries, they ask you if you want the bag. The bag comes with little leaves, everything. Like I'm in the elevator in my and the elevator, there's a message there that says these elevators are built with sustainable technology. I was like, what is that? It's
Yeah.
so, it's everywhere, and this is the message people will latch on because it's everywhere, but it's also because there's no alternative message anywhere, and
No,
that's
there isn't. And then there basically people have to okay, to put it in perspective, and this, I've been talking about this for 3 years now. People need to realize this has been planned for a while. And just now people are starting to really start paying attention. And so they are coming full force. This is going to happen. They will reinvent the basically industrial food system in a way that takes it down to the ground and then builds it back up. From the chemical labs to the seeds themselves to the basically the processing plants, all of those are changing across the board. Whenever you take something and you do a global industrial food shift, you take it to the ground, you rebuild it up, you say, oh, look how much more safer it is for the planet. Oh, look how much more healthy it is. But all the while, basically, everybody's getting more unhealthy. They're getting more impoverished nutritionally. And basically, people believe the lies because they're too far separated from what even knowing what food is anymore. This is going to happen. It depends on who's going to participate and who's not. And if you can, just like you said, Pedro, if you can go out there and have a counter argument and basically stand firm with your counter argument, because we got here by eating animal protein. This is how we basically survived. We basically found fire. We had meat already. Our brains got freaking bigger, and our stomachs got smaller. And so people that want to have this idealistic argument about animal welfare, well, the way we do it in the Beef Initiative with regenerative farming and ranching, we rebuild soil. We basically sequester carbon. We basically eat the best energy that's ever been out there, giving the best nutrition. We're the ones saving the planet. We're the ones that are basically concerned about animal welfare. So this bullshit narrative that they're pushing on a global stance, they're going to push it because they've got billions of dollars in the marketing plans. And just as with COVID, they're going to spend tens of billions of dollars to make you think if you eat this sludge, then you're going to be healthier and the planet's going to be happier. It takes the individual to know what's truth in food and what's truth in marketing and quit believing all the deceptions. Some people will never figure it out. I'm not talking to those people. I'm talking to the people that want to change their lives and save children's lives.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think they have billions in their marketing budgets. They actually have unlimited money on their marketing
Well,
budgets,
yeah, exactly.
which actually, it's one of the, it's what really started opening my eyes to the prevalence of how deep this goes. Is that I have some friends that actually produce cattle. They're very small scale here in Portugal, but I see them go against their own. They're not. I see them go against their own belief system because they have to abide by the regulation. Otherwise, they're competed out of the market by their neighbors that accepted the subsidy, because that subsidy juice is unlimited. Uh, Whoever doesn't follow the instruction that comes from Brussels or from Lisbon or from somewhere else,
Right.
is completely, it's a matter of months until they're priced out of the market. So they have to go through all the hoops and do change all their practices, go against what their parents taught them and what the ancestors have been doing in that land. And now you go beyond the south of Tejo, and instead of seeing the fields that you used to see, you just see recurrent signs for the type of pesticide to be used in that crop. And it's
Yep.
like you see all the same companies, the numbers change, the chemicals change. But I remember I was out of Portugal for a while and coming back and doing this same road that I used to do maybe 15 years ago. It was mind-boggling for me to see these signs that I was actually thinking in a, don't take offense, but I thought, wow, I thought this shit was only in the US. But it turns
Yep.
out it's being that mindset, that fiat mindset of outlawing good food and legalizing and subsidizing bad food is one of the best American exports, just like
It
the
really,
dollar.
it is. It's one of the worst things that we've ever done to our own communities. What we did, as far as we took all the power out of the basically the Midwest and the agricultural industry, and what America was as far as agriculture, it was a guiding light. It was fascinating what we could do in the United States. And what happened after, of course, we went off the gold standard, and we went into a debt economy. We went into debt with food in ways that we didn't know that we were going into, and we have exported it across the world. You look what they've been battling in India as far as the chemicals, the pesticides and the herbicides. There's been massive, basically, suicide by the Indian farmers and producers because they refuse to participate in this basically industrial food shift that is being driven by the multinational grain and chemical companies. And so, well, who changes that? Well, we do, the consumers. That's why we have to go out there, like I say here in the States, go shake your rancher's hand, go be a pillar of strength for them, because it doesn't take much for them to survive. If they can know that, like Jason Rick here in the United States, he's going to sell 40 beeves this year, 40 cows. That's all he needs to do what he wants to do. 40 cows is not that big in a big picture of things. And if we start putting perspective to, we don't have to switch our demand that much to really support the producers and ranchers. It takes us being intentional and quit searching for this convenience in food. I mean, it's daunting here in the States. It's like everywhere you go, it's just drive through after drive through after drive through, which is food desert after food desert after food desert. I've been looking at those fields with those chemical signs ever since I was a young child, and now, like you just said, it's going global. And they're gonna move forward, and we have to look at the basically who's participating in this and who's really driving this. Well, there's a lot of farmland in the United States that are being owned by China now. Where they don't have enough food to feed their citizens, and we say, well, beef is going to be outlawed. No, it's going to be outlawed and outpriced for the Western consumer. That's what's going to happen. They're going to increase the amount of beef production in this world, but it ain't going to be going to the Western people because our money is shit right now. And we don't have any power with it. And so, it's easy to basically consolidate these industries. And that's what they're doing. They're consolidating each industry as much as they can. And if you, like I say, if you innovate through this, then you will have a position that you will be okay. They can't get it. They can't get it all. They never have. They never will. History teaches us this, but it really depends on us as a community, as a Bitcoiners, and everybody individual in their own communities in which they live.
Yes, but even that intensive production that probably will happen. So I don't think that's either healthy or
It's not.
desirable, at least for us.
No, it won't last. That's the thing about it. It won't last. We will prevail. Good food will prevail. This is just something that basically destruction has to happen, though. And that's what they're doing anyways, intentionally, is they're basically destroying the old food system as we knew it, and they're inventing a new one. Well, it won't, like I said, and you're right. You can't, it's not healthy. You can't sustain yourself. You can't do this forever. And that was never their intentions as far as any of this to be healthy. They're just going to keep on doing what they've been doing because that's all they know how to do. And they're making, unlimited amount of profit, but they're gaining so much power over people. Whenever you can basically make people lethargic and unhealthy, they'll do anything you tell them to do.
Yeah. So going a bit back to the beef initiative. So are you and the beef initiative like exclusive to beef, or is it's a much bigger? There's a much bigger picture about regenerative agriculture, other types of meat, and other types of production, especially the types of production.
No, we're for everything. I started with beef because I'm in Texas and it's the number one focal point for me in my life. But basically in 2023, we're opening up the gates basically for everything. This is about clean food. This is not a carnivore and a vegan argument either. This is about clean food from different types of meats, across the board to produce, whatever it is that we can create that decentralized demand and basically market access for. We're going to be designing our platform. We have some platform updates coming, and we'll be doing a lot of organic, regenerative education.
Not again.
Beef or just not animal protein. So
Slim, I think you talk a lot about customizing the message and not entering full force with the Bitcoin shilling. And Francisco, who's on the chat on the side, actually is another Bitcoiner here in Portugal, and we were talking about something. Portugal is not a gigantic beef cattle producer. We also do a lot of pork, but obviously we have a privileged position next to the Atlantic, and there are some other initiatives that are doing a lot of Bitcoin gatherings, and there's obviously a component of food in all these gatherings, and Bitcoiners tend to want some of the best of everything because we start with the money and then the demands over the quality just build up from there. And this is something that I was talking to this guy Francisco that was in the chat that he was thinking about doing something that we could even call like the fish initiative, because the boats already exist. The fishermen already have the skill, but they're taking out the boats and coming back with the boats and selling it to the big markets that then distribute it throughout the whole country. They're put on trucks and they have no face-to-face with the consumer, which again creates a big, it's like we're adding third parties or fourth parties. We're adding all kinds of intermediaries in the chain that are completely unnecessary. So it's interesting, and it's a great question, I think, from Tiago, that it's the beef initiative is like you say, it's a lifestyle, it's a ethos. It's not about the beef. I think the beef, I'm not a nutritionist, but I think the beef is probably the most noble protein that we can have and the best fat that we can have. But if we have access to good fish, there's there's uh, there's potential to do maybe a mini summit of fish, and bringing in the fishermen and the pork producers and the honey producers and all of those.
Across the board, we have to. I mean, we can't limit our reach. We can't limit our education. We can't limit our market access. If it's part of something that got us here, that was the strength of our communities, the strength of our ancestors, hell yeah, we got to bring it back, and we've got to decentralize it. From fish to pork to fowl to lamb to goat to beef to, it doesn't matter. This is what this is about. And the Beef Initiative is, from the beginning, said, we had to start and show proof of work with beef because it's a type of industry that you can really visualize each step. And the fishermen can do the same thing. We show all the basically the middlemen that are basically stealing that fish from the fishermen, from the boats, and then they're shipping it across the country instead of feeding their communities. The story's the same, right? So whatever we need to do is, as far as collaborate within the other industries and the other different types of food sources, we're going to do that for sure, and we're going to let our basically our platform will reflect that as well moving forward.
Yeah. One topic that's good to talk about as well is Pedro talked about how local producers get left out of the market if they don't agree or go with the regulations imposed. We're not only talking about producers; we're talking about local commerce as well. The full integration that existed before we had all this global food supply industry, all the local commerce that we get here in Portugal as well, and maybe in Texas as well, is gone. It's gone because of regulations. It's gone because of market pressure imposed by the governments and by the EU here in Europe. And we see, and I think we all agree that the technology has come to fill this gap that surged with the local commerce going away. But looking to Texas, and let's use you as an example. How far have you come in Texas with the beef initiative? How many local producers do you already have? Do you see it having a huge impact on the local community? How far have you gone in Texas?
Well, it's beyond Texas right now. What we did, I started with 3 producers that I asked to come into the Beef Initiative platform so they could have basically people reaching out to them. Right now, I think we're probably about 100 and between 120 and 130 producers and ranchers that are now in the Beef Initiative. So it's grown big time. And what's happened with that is that we didn't invite these. We invite everybody. If they want to have basically a voice and a platform, then the Beef Initiative is where they're going to come to. And so we invite and encourage everybody to come in there, and they're starting to add up. People are just finding it word of mouth. It's not a marketing plan like we say. And so it is becoming viral. It is becoming something that we don't have to work at. And people are finding that basically all they have to do is put their name, their website, their phone number, their location, whatever it is. We had one rancher in Arkansas, Todd. He basically, all he had was a phone number and basically his location. And he was in Arkansas. Well, he was about to give up. Well, now he's going to have a micro summit in Arkansas in May. And so people found him, and they found him just through the Beef Initiative platform. So other ranchers and producers are talking about it. They're inviting their other rancher producer friends into it. So who knows how big this will grow. And I hope this year is going to be kind of the banner year that it does.
I think it's the parallels are incredible because I've been trying to also ever since I came back to Portugal, I've been trying to buy more stuff with Bitcoin, and I did the whole thing of trying to pester people and realizing that was achieving nothing. I actually, upon hearing you and being frustrated with my own tactics, I've completely changed, and I started actually just approaching people in as a partnership. Like they produce the stuff, they bring the stuff to me, and I'm not even talking necessarily about producers, but this can be done at the level of your grocery store. My grocery store here sells all the fiat food, but they also sell strawberries that somebody's niece maybe comes with a truck and delivers them, and establishing that conversation, trying to understand the products that they sell and they procure themselves, not the packaged goods, but the stuff that they know, trying to understand where their products come from. And then, like you said, the conversation of Bitcoin comes in later, and it's like planting a seed but not expecting the fruits to be immediate. Just like in agriculture, everything is done in the course of the time horizon is always very wide, and we always want the fastest food, um, but and we expect immediate results when we go out and try to convince someone over accepting Bitcoin. But I think we have to actually change our tactics and do that slow approach and be out there always consistently offering this to people, not badgering them, but being available.
Yeah, and that's a good perspective, Pedro. I tell everybody is like we're not selling cars here. right? We're basically educating about a new form of money and a new form of value, a new form of sovereignty. So why would you want somebody just to jump on that bandwagon with a couple of sentences? That's just not what you don't honor Bitcoin that way, and you don't honor the person that you're talking to. I'd never expected a rancher for me to listen to me to say you need to buy Bitcoin. A rancher producer wants to earn their Bitcoin, but they want to know how to do it first. And so that takes time. You know, we talk about in Bitcoin being low time preference, you know, delayed gratification, not having a high time preference, not, being instant gratified. That's the very fiat thinking, right? So when it comes to education in Bitcoin, we can't think in a fiat way when it comes to education and onboarding. We need to remember basically these digital devices that we stare at each day has really taught us how not to have good relationships. We're connected now more than we've ever been as a species, but we're so disconnected. It's daunting. And so I tell everybody this is a fantastic opportunity to go and actually know somebody that you're going to rely on and they're going to rely on you. And it's reciprocal and it's based on respect and trust. If Bitcoin is so damn powerful, like everybody believes, and I do 100%, is that it doesn't have to be sold. It has to be basically, you have to inform people about it, and you have to start from where they are, not where you are within the Bitcoin understanding, but where that person is. That takes time. That takes conversation. That takes basically listening first before you start talking, because you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know how they deal with money, what their pain points are. And once you show them that you care and that you're willing to listen and that you're willing to basically make their life better by purchasing some of their product, if that's what you want, as far as beef or animal protein, then you're going to establish a relationship where you're going to have somebody that actually does hear you instead of basically hearing that you're trying to sell them something. And so it is a form of emotional maturity. It is something that you get good at, and you wouldn't do it any other way once you've had that success of doing it in this type of approach.
And I think I can share two interesting experiences I had here in Portugal. So this is something we talk a lot on the Telegram groups. Butchers, not necessarily trying to approach the farmers themselves yet, but every time I go to a butcher, I always have a conversation with them, to the point that they're kind of surprised and they ask me what I do. And when I say I'm just a designer, they're like, "What? How do you know so much thing about meat? And why are you so interested? Like, nobody else is asking these questions." And I'm always, the way I judge a good butcher now is when I ask them if I would ever be able to go and see the farm where the cattle is raised, how they react, if they're open to it. It seems to me that they're they're open to be verified, and if they're
Yeah,
not, it seems to me that they're kind of ashamed of the source of
exactly.
their meat. And I think that and when I find a butcher that I can have a pleasant conversation that is open to that, then I choose that. And I think I tell myself, this is the person that's going to have my full patronage for my meats, because I want them to succeed, because they're going to be a good source. And even if they're more expensive, and then the seed is there. I mentioned Bitcoin once in a while as a joke, but I'm not expecting them to accept it. I'm just letting them know that there's other ways. And I know that this is something that stays on people's minds. I go to this other farmers market, and I try to get everybody involved in Bitcoin, but only one person actually accepted it. And I now know that, at least in the future, even if I'm gone and if I leave the city, this person might become a beacon of Bitcoin for the other surrounding stalls, because now he's been onboarded. He's starting to understand, and I go there and I try to do good conversation with him every single week, because I know that the it's about, like you said, the personal relationship. It doesn't matter that much, the whole money. He's still not even interested in that. I just go there
Yeah.
because he just gives me good produce, and I can follow his Instagram account, and I see that his family picks it up every week and goes to the market, and it's reliable food and trustworthy food.
Well, and we've got like now in the United States, I'll use Jason there in Colorado of Rick Ranches. You know, he now is educating other producers. He went up and did a speech up in Wyoming this last week, and he was up there speaking in front of 15 young producers, onboarding them into Bitcoin. You get somebody that you basically help educate, or you educate along, like what we've done with Jason and Jason with us. Basically, they go out there and they start educating, and basically, you know, they're going to find a lot more people. So it really takes one at a time, and that multiplies out for sure.
Yeah. Let's now look to Portugal. I was just asking you before we started the stream, how much of your audience was from Portugal, and if you had contact with any local producers here in Portugal. Could you answer that on live?
Yeah. Well, you know, we've had some, you know, touch points and people kind of reaching out. You know, it hasn't been anything that's been organized or coordinated in that sense. A lot of Bitcoiners, of course, have reached out and everything. I think it's not hard. If we want to do something in Portugal, all we have to do is start talking about it. And I think with us going to Australia, that was kind of my intentions, is to use Australia as a playbook. And because we're going to be doing a lot of content, I'm going to be doing a lot of like short form videos. We're going to be doing a lot of basically farm tours, everything. So I'm asking all the Bitcoins, you know, across the globe here, let's get this thing going to where we do have basically beef initiatives popping up. And I don't think Portugal is going to be hard. I mean, if, you know, we got us right here, us four right now, that's a damn good start. Takes one producer. That's all it was with me. I went up there and I shook hands with one rancher. And basically within 1 week, we had 3 ranchers on board, and that's how the beef initiative started. So, you know, you put it in perspective. I mean, we can do whatever we want. We don't have to ask for permission. All we do is take action. And so if we want to get something going on in Portugal, I see it because I have had people reach out, and we can increase numbers.
And I think it's interesting because especially now there's a big influx of foreigners coming from more strong economies coming in. There's a every time I scroll on Twitter, there's like a CNBC article with Americans moving to Portugal, and unfortunately, I think the producers here in Portugal are still in a kind of backwards, not backwards in a negative way. I think Portugal is a great place to do your urban exodus, but still there's a mind shift that is still a little late. And for instance, the people I know that produce cattle, they're open to Bitcoin, but they're actually not opening to getting more work to set up a summit, because I've already approached them and I failed. And maybe it's on me too, because I'm not a good organizer. Maybe what we need is not even we don't even need the ranches. We just need someone to actually go out there and start talking and approaching the people. And I think any one of us can do that. It just requires
you know, the one thing if you have, we don't go with a bunch of, basically on each one of our events, if you have one rancher there, you're winning. That's all that's about. If you got one producer, you know, you invite somebody to say, hey, we're going to have this big old cattleman's feast or whatever it is, and you say, we want you to feed this event, we want you to be there, we want you to listen, and that's all it takes. You don't have to get it's not a numbers game. If you get one rancher at any event, then you're winning. That's what this is about. So once again, perspective, you know, and they will come. They all start coming. It's you don't have to work at it. You just have to communicate, and you do. You know, if one guy doesn't want, that's fine. He's not ready. Well, there's the next one that does. There's a lot of ranchers, producers out there that are looking just for this. And so, you know, it takes fortitude and effort. And, you know, you're going to find those ranchers that will listen and that want to participate. It's a no brainer. This is it. They're out there. We just, you know, you just have to come to, like I said, I drove 60,000 miles this year. It's a lot of miles on back roads across the United States. So
You've
it takes a little effort.
You've put in the proof of work.
Yes, I have. That was just this year. So yeah, and so we got one thing that I see that we do, and I do it, and we do it as a society, a global society. We generalize too much. We need to put things in perspective and like, what are we trying to do here? Well, we're trying to build a community. Well, a community starts very small and then it grows. And that's how things are done. So if we can look at these events, it was never a numbers game for me. And guess what? We sold out every one, and we never really tried to work too hard at that. We didn't make them big events. We made them to where they were manageable. And every time that we sold enough tickets, we weren't trying to make money, but we had plenty of ranchers that started getting more and more involved as we went along. That's all it takes. And that's what we're seeing in Australia too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I try to approach a rancher nearby me and Abjetu also. So he's a pork breeder,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's free range. They are out in the they are out in the field. We can. He makes live videos of the piglets
Yeah.
walking around in the ranch, and I try to approach him and a butcher and some other people who are already in some kind of a meat community. And
Mm-hmm.
so that I would like to do like this mini summit you're talking about. So it was like a tour to the ranch, and
Mm-hmm.
we would taste the meat and have some kind of party there, paying of course.
I would do it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so
Set it up.
that people could come if me, Pedro, and Objeto would like to go and visit the ranch. We would eat some of the food, and we would pay, of course.
Sure.
But I didn't have this much positive feedback. So
Yeah.
people just say, "Oh yeah, let's." I'm not seeing it happen, or they don't even respond back or something like that. So, but
Yeah.
it's we must keep trying, maybe.
You have to keep trying, man. If you're going to get discouraged on disappointment, man, about
Yeah.
98% of my days are disappointment. And I just, if I can get
So
2% that is
what
positive, then we're doing all right.
what would you say to the ranchers who may be listening,
I would out there, if you got any ranchers or anything, this is happening. This is just not a Texas thing. This is not a United States thing. This is people are going to start paying more and more attention to our food sources and basically how they get their basically how they source their food. The prohibition against the farmer producer is going to increase. And so this is a timing thing. And we're going to be there ready for basically whenever people are saying, holy shit, okay, we need to do something different. And and that's what I tell the Bitcoiners, just be prepared. There's nothing better than to go out there and meet new people. If people want to participate, they're going to basically let you know. If they don't, just say, hey man, it's okay. Here we are. And one thing though, I think moving forward, especially Australia, there's going to be a lot of content that we can start sharing with people. Say, hey, would you just take a look at this? This is what's going on. This is what we're talking about. And that is where we are in 2023. So it's been kind of hard, just word of mouth. You got to be very articulate. You got to be pretty good and eloquent and sophisticated. Not everybody is like that. It takes time and practice. And so, but I think us, starting to get this awareness, especially global awareness, that we're going to have a lot that we can leverage as far as tool sets, as far as content, audio, video. It's just going to happen this year, and we're going to produce the crap out of it within the Beef Initiative. We're really going to start doing a lot of production and to show people this is what's really going on. And that way we'll have a good repository, a good content library that we're going to start sharing to everybody. So we're working on that because I hear you. And sometimes it's daunting to try to convince somebody, but sometimes you have to basically paint a picture. You have to tie into their imagination, and because there's a lot of people out there that really want to do this. You just got to find the right ones.
And
Yeah.
I think once you have the first producer, I think in general people tend to uh, add more trust to their peers of their
Mhm.
own vocations.
For sure.
And once you have that cornerstone producer, and maybe you also generate a little bit of content, you post some pictures of some happy people gathering around the fire and
Mhm.
cooking some meat. It doesn't even need to be about Bitcoin, but once people get out and say, what was this? Wow, since when do you have people coming into your own property to consume your product without
Right.
having to send it out? And then people start talking, and there's like these crazy people that are into Bitcoin. They come into my property and they pay me premium.
Yep.
I don't
Yeah.
even need to. I don't even need to deal with all the bureaucracy and the paperwork of going to the auction. I can just sell to the people, and I have a great time. And they feed me, and they buy me wine, and we have a talk, and
Yeah.
I meet some people.
Well, I mean, everyone like right before I got on this podcast, I was talking with Cole Bolton of KC Cattle. He just opened up the processing center down there in Central Texas. I mean, that's exactly what he's doing. People are coming to his retail front. You know, they're coming to him. We're selling basically all of our beef through his processing center. And then you look at Jason out in Colorado. Well, man, he's proof of work right there. Any producers that are watching this, you know, look up Rick Ranches, you know, in the States, WRICH ranches.com. You look up K&C cattle, you look up Holy Cow beef. We've got all the producers in the world right now in the United States that are having success with this. And so what we're going to do, like I said, is we're going to start producing content of the producers, what they're saying. And you know, that's what's going to be fun for the Beef Initiative and me, is that I just get to go visit everybody and say, hey man, tell me how this is working out for you, and then we push it out there. I mean, I do have a new media company that we're going to be pushing all the content through. It's Texas Slim Media. And so we're going to have plenty that people can kind of point their, you know, the curiosity towards. And this, like I said, this is why 2023 is going to be a very pivotal year with all of this.
Yeah. We're already some low on time. I don't know about you, but we don't want to extend this much more.
Y'all are getting late there, aren't you?
Something like that. Texas,
Yes.
where can people find this content you provide us?
The best thing to do is go to beefinitiative.com and subscribe to the newsletter. The newsletter is our ground zero. Once you subscribe to the newsletter, you'll be hearing from me, from the podcast to the newsletter that we send out every week. But then you'll also land at beefinitiative.com, where you can see what we're doing. You can see what our why, our mission statement, everything that we're about. You can see all the beef that we sell, you know, here in the States. You can look and, you know, basically you can have beef delivered to your door right now in the United States. That's what we're doing. 48 states. And so just go to beefinitiative.com, participate, read our newsletter, read what we're doing, read the education. My podcast is educational a lot of times. And, you know, we have Bitcoin for ranchers on our YouTube channel with Beef Initiative. If, you know, ranchers, producers out there, you know, they want to kind of look at, you know, their 4 video sequences. There's plenty of education. Just start with the beefinitiative.com.
Thank God we have you guys.
You betcha.
Thank God for the Beef Initiative.
No, I tell you what, man, let's all get this going. I mean, let's get this global. This is what we're doing. We're building nodes across the globe, just like Bitcoin. You know, that's what we're doing. We're building nodes. And I told people at the very beginning of the year, I said, I'm going to go around this earth for the next 24 months. I'll go anywhere. Let's get this going. And, you know, I think that we're having a lot of successes. And anybody that really puts the work in, you're going to have success. There's something that's going to change within your community for sure. In the Bitcoin education and adoption, man, it's coming. People are out there. They're hungry for this. And so we just got to keep on hitting it.
Yeah. The bottom up approach. Let's do this.
Yep. Let's
do
this.
The Beef Initiative goes global. And
you know it.
It also includes Portugal, what I'm proud of. Let's go.
Yes. Let's do it. I'm ready.
We're right in the middle of the map.
There you go, man. Let's do it. Let's make it a big O tour. Let's start with Portugal first.
Texas, let me just be thankful for your presence here. I don't know if
sure.
Our guest Pedro has something to say to you at last. I don't know if Thiago has something to say as well. We'll just.
I just want to thank you and thank your availability and time to be with us today and talk about beef and Bitcoin.
Yeah, and I would like to thank you for setting the example and giving us a reference of how things can get done and how we can change this.
No, guys, thanks for reaching out. I love it whenever, we start having these conversations across the oceans and there's no borders, remember? And, the Beef Initiative it's based on the Bitcoin ethos. And so all you got to do is do proof of work, man. It's TikTok next block. I mean, that's how this stuff works. And you can't do it, if you're just going to LARP in this space, in the Bitcoin or the Beef Initiative space, you don't get anywhere. But if you put in the proof of work, man, you have results, and it's a fascinating lifestyle. We all become good friends, and so here we go, right?
Yeah.
Let's go. Going global.
Let's
Beef
go.
Initiative.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I can't wait to meet you guys in person, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Do tell us if you come to Portugal. So
well, no, you guys are not hell. You guys are making it happen with me, man. We're all making this happen.
Let's go.
All right, man.
Let's close
Y'all
it out.
take care.
So, bye.
Bye.
Bom, não perca o próximo episódio.
Porque nós também não.
Nós também não vamos perder. Até.
Bem-aja.